I always thought love would be the one thing in life that couldn't betray me. But now, as I sit here in my half-decorated living room surrounded by wedding catalogs, champagne glasses, and the faint smell of roses, I realize how wrong I was. My name is Lyra Quinn, 31 years old, marketing director at a luxury event firm in Miami. I built my career planning dream weddings for other people. Ironically, I never imagined I'd be the one starring in a nightmare dressed in white. It all started 6 days before my wedding to Ethan Hale, the man I believed was my forever. Ethan was charming, the kind of man who could make a crowded room quiet with a single smile. We met 3 years ago at a charity gala I organized. He was everything I wasn't. Calm, grounded, unshakably confident. Or so I thought. Back then, I didn't see the red flags. The way he flirted too easily. How he brushed off small lies with bigger promises. Because love, when it blinds you, paints devils as angels. That morning, I woke up early to meet Maya, my maid of honor and best friend since college. We were supposed to finalize last-minute wedding details at the venue, a glass-walled beachfront hotel overlooking the Atlantic. Can you believe it, Lyra? Maya grinned as we walked through the lobby. In less than a week, you'll be Mrs. Hale. I smiled, feeling that warm rush of disbelief that comes before a dream comes true. Yeah, I just want everything to be perfect. She squeezed my arm. It will be. You deserve perfect. Her words meant everything. At the time. Later that afternoon, Ethan texted me. Running late, babe. Meeting ran over. Don't wait up. It wasn't unusual. He often worked long hours as a corporate lawyer. Still, something in his tone felt distant, colder. I brushed it off. Maybe it was pre-wedding stress. His or mine. I poured a glass of wine and scrolled through our wedding playlist on my laptop. But then, a notification popped up. Maya had sent me a photo. Or so I thought. The preview showed a blurry image, and curiosity won. I clicked it open. My heart stopped. It was Ethan and Maya at our wedding venue, kissing. The image was timestamped 2 hours ago. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. My brain refused to understand what my eyes saw. I thought maybe it was edited, some cruel prank. But then I zoomed in, and there it was. Ethan's gold watch, the one I'd given him last Christmas. Maya's turquoise ring, glinting under the sun. The wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor. The sound barely registered. My ears were ringing, my vision narrowing, the world collapsing inward. I replayed every moment, every late meeting, every girls' night Maya had to cancel, every time Ethan said he needed space. The puzzle pieces clicked together in the ugliest picture I'd ever seen. I called Maya. No answer. I called Ethan. Straight to voicemail. My breath came out shaky, uneven. Don't do this to me, I whispered to no one. Not like this. Hours passed. The sun sank behind the skyline. My apartment felt too quiet, too clean, like a stage before the performance begins. Except this was real life. My life. Finally, around 10 p.m., Ethan texted again. Sorry, babe. Got caught up in work. Can't talk tonight. Love you. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. Something inside me broke. But not in the way people expect. It wasn't crying or screaming. It was silence. Heavy, sharp, dangerous silence. Because when love dies, something darker takes its place. The next morning, I didn't confront them. Not yet. I watched, waited, collected details like evidence in a trial I hadn't announced. Ethan kissed me goodbye before heading to the office. His lips still smelled faintly of champagne. Maya texted me later, pretending everything was normal. It was almost impressive. Their performance. Almost. That night, I went through Ethan's iPad, the one he always left charging beside the bed. He never bothered locking it. He trusted me. Ironic, isn't it? Inside, I found their messages, hundreds of them. whispered secrets, photos, plans to tell Lyra after the honeymoon. A message from Maya, dated yesterday. I can't keep pretending. It feels wrong. And his reply, just a few more days, baby. Then we'll be free. Free. That word sliced through me like glass. I wanted to scream, to break everything that reminded me of them. The white dress hanging in my closet, the bouquet on the counter, the engraved champagne flutes that said Mr. and Mrs. Hale. But instead, I stood still, completely still. Because in that stillness, an idea began to form. Slow, beautiful, and cruel. If they wanted a perfect wedding, I'd give them one, just not the one they expected. As I stared at my reflection in the mirror, mascara smudged and eyes red, I whispered, "You picked the wrong bride to betray." And for the first time that night, I smiled. The night after I caught them together, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. His hands on her waist, the sound of her laugh echoing in my head like a broken record. By sunrise, something inside me had shifted. The version of me that believed in fairy tales was gone. The new me, colder, sharper, had been born. I poured myself a glass of cold coffee and opened my laptop. The wedding slideshow was supposed to be a sweet memory reel, pictures of us growing up, our first trip together, the proposal. But that morning, I had a different plan. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd show the world just how dirty they were. I started scrolling through my phone. There it was. The evidence. Dozens of photos. One video. All taken on the same night. My hands trembled, but not from sadness anymore. It was adrenaline. I whispered to myself, "You wanted a show, Noah? I'll give you a show they'll never forget." Later that day, I met with our wedding planner, Victoria. She noticed the bags under my eyes immediately. "Lyra, you okay? You look tired." I forced a smile. "Just pre-wedding stress. You know how it is." Victoria nodded sympathetically. "Of course. You're marrying the perfect guy, right?" I almost laughed. "Perfect guy. Sure, perfect liar." I asked her casually, "Hey, can I make a few last-minute changes to the slideshow? Just some personal touches?" She smiled. "Of course. I'll send you the access link." Perfect. That night, I sat in the dark, my laptop glowing in front of me. I replaced the final slideshow sequence, the one that was supposed to end with "Forever Starts Today," with a new folder titled Truth. Inside that folder, the video of Noah and Harper in my living room, screenshots of their messages, audio from the night before. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. As I worked, tears streamed down my face. Not for him, not for us, but for the years I wasted believing I wasn't enough. I whispered to my reflection in the screen, "You'll never humiliate me again." I saved the file, closed the laptop, and stared out the window. Miami's city lights flickered below, bright and cruel. Tomorrow I would walk down that aisle, but I wouldn't be the bride they expected. The next morning, the preparations began. Makeup artists, hairstylists, champagne. Harper was there too, pretending everything was fine, wearing a fake smile that almost made me laugh. "Lyra," she chirped, "you look stunning. Noah's going to cry when he sees you." "Oh, he'll cry all right," I thought. "Just not for the reason you think." I hugged her, for the last time, and whispered, "Thanks for being here, Harper. I couldn't do this without you." She smiled, clueless. As I sat in front of the mirror, the stylist asked, "Are you nervous?" I looked at my reflection, at the woman who was about to destroy the illusion everyone adored, and said softly, "No, just ready." The ceremony began at sunset. The ocean shimmered gold behind us. Guests filled the seats, smiling, laughing, drinking champagne. Noah stood at the altar, looking like every woman's dream. But I knew better now. He was every nightmare disguised as a fantasy. As I took my first steps down the aisle, our song played in the background. Every lyric felt like poison. He smiled at me. I smiled back. Let the game begin. The ceremony glowed in gold and champagne. Everything looked perfect. Every flower, every guest, every carefully curated smile. But perfection was the lie I had lived in for too long. As the officiant began speaking, I barely heard the words. I was focused on the screen behind us, the one that would soon display the truth. Noah reached for my hand. His palm was warm, steady. It made me sick. He looked into my eyes and whispered, "You okay, baby?" I wanted to laugh. Was I okay? My maid of honor had slept with my fiancé 3 nights ago, and he was asking if I was okay. I squeezed his hand and whispered back, "I've never been better." He smiled, completely unaware that he was standing at the edge of his own downfall. Harper stood nearby, holding my bouquet with a fake tenderness. Her dress shimmered under the fairy lights. She'd picked it herself, saying it would complement mine. Ironic. It matched the color of betrayal. When I looked at her, she glanced away. Maybe a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes, or maybe she was just afraid I'd noticed something. If only she knew how much I'd noticed. As vows began, I listened to Noah speak. He talked about honesty, loyalty, forever. Each word felt like a blade slicing into what little remained of my heart, but I didn't cry. Not this time. I smiled sweetly as he finished, and when it was my turn, I took a slow breath. "My dearest Noah," I began, my voice trembling just enough to sound real. "From the moment I met you, I thought my life was finally safe. I thought I'd found someone who would never hurt me." His expression softened, and Harper smiled like she was part of the script. "But," I continued, "sometimes love blinds us to the truth." The guests leaned forward. I saw Noah's smile falter. He knew that tone, the one I used when I was about to say something he didn't want to hear. The officiant looked confused. I turned slightly, giving a signal to the technician controlling the screen. "Before we exchange rings," I said, "I made something special for us. For everyone, actually. A small video to celebrate the truth about love." Polite laughter from the crowd. Noah looked surprised. "You did? You didn't tell me." "I wanted it to be a surprise," I said softly. And oh, it would be. The music faded. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. It began with our childhood photos, 2 smiling faces, high school dances, our first apartment. Everyone awed. Then, the shift. The next clip showed Noah's hands where they didn't belong, Harper's voice, their laughter. At first, people thought it was some kind of joke, until it wasn't. Harper gasped, "Lyra, what the hell?" Noah turned pale. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" he shouted to the technician, but it was too late. The video kept rolling. Their texts appeared on the screen. "She'll never know. We have to stop Noah. One more night." Gasps rippled through the audience. A few guests stood up. Cameras were already out. I watched him, expressionless. "Surprise," I whispered. Harper ran off in tears. Noah followed, stammering something about a mistake. But the damage was done. The officiant didn't know what to do. The guests murmured in shock. I stood there in silence, then reached for the mic. "I guess there won't be any vows today," I said calmly. "But thank you all for coming. At least now, you've seen who Noah really is." And with that, I lifted my bouquet and threw it, not over my shoulder, but straight into the pool behind me. The crowd went wild. As I walked off the altar, the Miami sunset glowed behind me, fiery, magnificent, like the ending of one life and the beginning of another. My heels clicked on the marble path. Each step felt lighter. No tears, no shaking hands, just freedom. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over yet. Because Noah, the man who just lost everything, wasn't going to disappear quietly. The night after the wedding disaster, Miami felt different. The air was thick, electric, like the city itself had watched what I did and was still holding its breath. My phone buzzed non-stop. Some were messages from shocked guests, others from reporters, and a few from numbers I didn't recognize. But one stood out, Noah. Noah, you humiliated me in front of everyone. Noah, you'll regret this, Lyra. Noah, we need to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Lyra, there's nothing left to say. Then I blocked him. But deep down, I knew. Noah wasn't the kind of man who accepted defeat. The next morning, my video was everywhere. Someone at the wedding had uploaded it to social media. Bride exposes cheating fiancé at wedding, must watch. Miami wedding turns into public scandal. Within 24 hours, it hit 4 million views. My inbox flooded with interview requests. Everyone wanted the woman who caught her groom cheating live on screen. It should have felt satisfying, but instead I felt empty. Revenge had given me justice, yes, but not peace. I moved out of our apartment that same week. Noah's things were still there. His cologne, his watch, his smile staring from framed photos. I stuffed everything into boxes, sealing each one like I was closing a wound. Then came the knock on the door. I froze. It was him. Lyra, please, just listen. Noah's voice came from behind the door. I didn't move. He knocked harder. You think this fixes anything? You think you can ruin my life and just walk away? Rage flared inside me, but I kept quiet. Finally, I opened the door. Just a little. His face was a mess. Dark circles, messy hair, desperate eyes. Noah, I said calmly, you ruined your own life. I just pressed play. He flinched. You don't understand. You've destroyed my reputation. My career. I interrupted. Oh, so now it's about you. He clenched his fists. You'll regret this, Lyra. You think people are laughing with you, but they're laughing at you. You're just the crazy ex now. I smiled coldly. Maybe, but at least I'm free. Then I shut the door in his face. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Every sound outside felt like him, watching, waiting. Part of me wanted to run, start over somewhere else. But another part whispered, don't give him that power. So instead, I started recording my story. Not for YouTube, not for clout, but for myself. I sat in front of my laptop camera and hit record. My name is Lyra Quinn, I began softly, and this is what happens when the fairy tale ends. Days turned into weeks. The online world moved on. Another scandal replaced mine, another betrayal trending. But I didn't disappear. I began writing, sharing stories about love, lies, and rebuilding. People started following. Thousands of women messaged me saying my story gave them strength. For the first time in a long time, I felt purpose. Until one day, a message appeared from an unknown account. Unknown. You really think you've won? Attached was a photo of me, taken from outside my apartment. I froze. Noah wasn't done. He was watching. And I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. The next morning, sunlight spilled through my window. Warm, golden, almost mocking. I hadn't slept much. My mind kept replaying the sound of Evan's voice calling Harper's name, the look on his face when he realized I knew. But under that chaos, something new was growing inside me. Clarity. I wasn't broken anymore. I was planning. I spent the entire morning going through every detail of the wedding, the guest list, the seating chart, the slideshow files, the sound system. I knew exactly where the control laptop was, and more importantly, who had access to it. Harper had volunteered to handle the surprise video for Evan. She claimed it was a sentimental slideshow of our love story. Oh, how poetic. So I decided to help her. That afternoon, I drove to the wedding venue, an elegant beachside villa in Coral Gables, all white marble and glass. Staff were running around preparing decorations. I smiled politely as I walked past them, pretending to be the perfect calm bride. But inside, my pulse was quick, steady, like the ticking of a countdown. When I reached the control booth, I found Diego, the technician, setting up the monitors. Hey, Diego, I said sweetly. Mind if I check the slideshow file real quick? Just want to make sure it's perfect before the big day. He shrugged. Sure, Ms. Quinn. It's right here. The folder was labeled Forever Evan Lyra. I opened it. The first few photos were innocent. Our first date, our trip to Napa, Evan proposing at the beach. Then the file paused. I could almost imagine Harper's smug little smile, knowing she'd be the one to press play during the reception. Perfect. I inserted a USB drive, replaced her version with mine, and made sure the transition timing matched exactly. When I was done, I smiled. Thanks, Diego. You're a lifesaver. He grinned. You got it, boss bride. I laughed. If only he knew what kind of boss move I was about to pull. That night, I invited Harper over. I thought maybe we could talk, I said on the phone. I don't want things to be awkward at the wedding. She hesitated for a second before answering. Of course, babe. I'll be there soon. When she arrived, she was dressed in pastel pink, probably fresh from some bridal spa day. She brought champagne and fake smiles. Lyra, you look tired, she said, scanning my face. Big week, huh? Yeah, I said, pouring the drinks. Biggest week of my life. We sat on the balcony. The Miami skyline glittered behind her. For a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. So, she began, you and Evan, all good? I stared at her for a long moment. Harper, I said softly, you ever think about what happens when you destroy someone's trust? She blinked, confused. What? I smiled. Never mind, just curious. We clinked glasses. She took a sip, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker behind her eyes. Just a flash, like she sensed I knew. But she said nothing, and neither did I, because actions, not words, would deliver the truth. That night, as I watched her drive away, I whispered to myself, you took my heart. I'll take your spotlight. Tomorrow would be the wedding of the year, but for very different reasons. The day had come, my wedding day. The air in Miami was hot, heavy with salt and tension. Seagulls screamed over the shoreline while decorators rushed to finish the final touches. Everything looked perfect. The white roses, the silk ribbons, the glittering arch by the sea. If only they knew what was really about to happen. I stood in front of the mirror in the bridal suite. My makeup artist, Tara, was adding the last touch of blush to my cheeks. You look stunning, Lyra, she whispered. I smiled at my reflection, a vision in white lace, soft curls pinned back, eyes calm but cold. Thank you, I said softly. It's going to be unforgettable. She laughed, not knowing how literal I meant that. A knock on the door. Come in, I said. Harper entered, wearing her maid of honor gown, emerald green, matching the ocean behind her. She looked beautiful, radiant even, and I hated that part of me still noticed. Hey, bride-to-be, she said cheerfully. You ready to walk into forever? I looked at her through the mirror. Forever, I repeated. That's one word for it. She tilted her head, maybe sensing the edge in my tone, but quickly brushed it off. I'll go check the slideshow one last time, she said. I want it to be perfect for you. Oh, I'm sure it will be, I murmured, smiling to myself. When she left, I sat alone, staring at my bouquet. A single tear fell, not for Evan, not for Harper, but for the version of myself that once believed in fairy tales. Then I wiped it away. Fairy tales were for fools. The ceremony began just before sunset. The crowd rose as I walked down the aisle, the ocean wind catching my veil like a whisper from fate. Evan stood at the altar, handsome as ever in his ivory tuxedo. His smile was steady, confident even. If guilt lived behind that face, he hid it well. As I reached him, he took my hands. You look like a dream, he said. I smiled. So do you. A nightmare dressed like a daydream. He chuckled, not catching the bite beneath my words. The officiant began to speak. The vows, the promises, the future. But my mind wasn't on the words. It was on what was coming next. After the ceremony, guests filled the reception hall. Music, laughter, the clinking of champagne glasses, the perfect illusion of happiness. Harper hovered near the stage, pretending to check her phone, while Evan mingled with family. Then the lights dimmed. Harper walked up to the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced sweetly, "before we start dinner, I've prepared a little surprise for our beautiful couple. A video of their love story." Applause, cheers, phones lifted to record. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, heart steady. The screen flickered on. The first few images were exactly as expected. Romantic, soft, full of fake perfection. Our first kiss, our beach trip, candlelit dinners. Then the music slowed. The next photo appeared. Evan in the same hotel suite as before, shirtless, holding champagne. Another image? Harper, stepping out from behind him, wearing his shirt. Then a video clip. His voice, her laughter. Crystal clear. Gasps echoed through the hall. Someone dropped their drink. Evan froze, eyes wide, face draining of color. Harper stumbled back, hands trembling. "No, that's not—" The video continued mercilessly. Snippets of messages, timestamps, receipts, hotel footage, proof after proof, betrayal after betrayal. I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't blink. When it ended, the room fell silent. Then I stood. "Thank you all for coming," I said calmly into the microphone. "I guess this is what true love looks like in Miami." A few nervous laughs. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" "Oh, it's real," I said, looking straight at Evan. "Too real." Evan stepped forward, panic flooding his face. "Lyra, please!" I held up a hand. "Save it." Then I turned to Harper. "Congratulations, maid of honor. You've outdone yourself." And I walked out, head high, veil trailing like victory. Behind me, the hall erupted in chaos, shouting, crying, embarrassment burning in the air. Outside, the ocean breeze met me like applause. For the first time in months, I could finally breathe. The ocean wind hit my face like freedom. Behind me, chaos was still echoing through the wedding hall. Shouts, gasps, arguments, broken glass. But I didn't look back. I walked straight toward the beach, my heels sinking into the sand, my white gown brushing against the waves. The sky was streaked with orange and pink, like the world itself was watching the end of a lie. For a moment, I stood there in silence. Then, I laughed. A quiet, shaky laugh. The kind that comes from surviving hell and walking out smiling. "Lyra!" a voice shouted behind me. "Evan." I turned slowly. He was running toward me, jacket gone, hair a mess, desperation all over his face. "Please," he panted. "You have to listen. It's not what it looked like." I tilted my head. "Really? Because it looked exactly like you cheating on your fiancé with her maid of honor. Should I rewatch it in slow motion?" He flinched. "It was a mistake." "No," I cut in sharply. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a choice." He ran a hand through his hair, shaking. "I love you, Lyra. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything." I laughed again, bitterly. "You cheated for months, Evan. You booked hotel rooms. You sent gifts. You told her things you never told me. Don't you dare stand here and say it meant nothing." His voice broke. "Please, just don't ruin my career. The investors, the family." That made me laugh harder. "Oh, Evan, you're worried about your reputation? Don't worry, I already emailed the video to everyone on your guest list, including your business partners. I'm sure they'll love your sense of loyalty." His face turned pale. "You didn't—" "I did." And I smiled, not out of cruelty, but closure. He stared at me for a long time, jaw trembling, and then, without another word, he turned and walked away. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, just relief. I looked down at my reflection in the waves. Mascara smudged, lipstick fading, veil soaked. But I'd never felt more beautiful, because for once I wasn't pretending. I walked up from the shore, back toward the parking lot. That's when I saw Harper sitting on the steps, barefoot, crying into her hands. For a second, I considered walking past her, but something made me stop. She looked up, eyes swollen, voice trembling. Lyra, I'm sorry. Please. I never meant for it to. Don't, I said quietly. Don't lie again, not tonight. She nodded, tears falling freely. I didn't love him, she whispered. I wanted what you had. I sighed. Then I hope it was worth losing everything. She sobbed harder, curling into herself like a child. I turned to leave, but stopped one last time. You know, I said softly, you were my best friend for 10 years. I would have given you the world. Her voice cracked. And now, I looked at her, truly looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel hatred, just emptiness. Now, I said, you're just part of the lesson. Then I walked away. Later that night, I sat on my balcony, barefoot, still in the torn remains of my wedding dress. The city glittered below like it didn't care. And maybe that was the point. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and smiled as I saw the email notifications flooding in. Messages from guests, news outlets, even wedding bloggers. The video had gone viral. The headline read, Miami bride exposes cheating fiancé and maid of honor in shocking wedding video. Thousands of comments. Some pitied me, some praised me. But I didn't need validation. I'd already won. That night, I finally took off my engagement ring and dropped it into my wine glass. It clinked softly, like the last sound of a dead love story. I whispered to myself, cheers, Lyra. You didn't just lose a man, you found yourself. The music started. A soft piano version of Can't Help Falling in Love. Everyone turned to look at me as I walked down the aisle. Not in white, but in silver. Bold, shimmering, unapologetic. My heart raced, but not from nerves, from anticipation, the kind that comes right before justice. I reached the altar where Ethan waited, looking nervous. He leaned closer, whispering, You look different. I smiled. I am different. The officiant began the ceremony, and everything looked perfect on the surface. Guests smiled, cameras flashed, champagne glimmered. But beneath the perfection was a ticking bomb, and I held the detonator. When it was time for the slideshow, the journey of love, Ethan smirked, knowing he'd chosen the photos himself. But he didn't know I had replaced the USB drive the night before. The lights dimmed. A large screen lit up behind us. Soft romantic music began, and the first photos appeared. Our early memories, vacations, dates. Guests awed and smiled. Then, at minute 1, the tone changed. A new set of photos appeared. Screenshots of text messages, messages between Ethan and Sabrina. The crowd went silent. Whispers rippled across the room. Sabrina froze in her seat, her face turning pale. Ethan's smile vanished. Lyra, what the hell is this? He hissed. I stepped back, eyes locked on the screen. You tell me, Ethan. Seems like our journey of love took a detour. The next image, a hotel receipt. The next, a photo of them together, blurry but undeniable. Then, a video clip. Ethan and Sabrina in a hotel room, laughing, kissing. The room exploded. Guests gasped. Some shouted, others filmed. Sabrina ran toward the exit, crying. Ethan grabbed my arm, furious. You planned this? I looked straight at him, my voice calm. No, Ethan, you planned this, when you decided to betray me. He tried to pull the plug on the projector, but the screen went black on cue, and a final message appeared. Thank you for attending what was supposed to be my wedding, but instead, it's the funeral of my patience. The crowd broke into murmurs, laughter, disbelief. Ethan stormed out, humiliated. I took the mic, lifted my head high. To everyone here, love doesn't blind us. Betrayal does. And today, I finally opened my eyes. Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my power. And as I walked off the aisle, alone, strong, radiant, I finally felt free. The next morning, Miami woke up to my story. It was everywhere. On social media, gossip blogs, even morning TV shows. Bride exposes cheating fiancé during wedding slideshow. The title screamed across headlines. I didn't expect it to blow up like that. But once the video leaked, I guessed one of the guests posted it. The internet went wild. Millions of views overnight. Some called me a hero. Others called me cruel. But for the first time in months, I didn't care what anyone thought. I was free. Still, freedom came with noise. My phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from friends, ex-coworkers, even strangers. Some congratulated me for being brave. Others wanted interviews. Even a talk show reached out, asking if I'd share my empowerment story. But all I wanted was peace. I turned off my phone and drove to the beach, the same one where Ethan had proposed to me. Back then, I thought it was the beginning of forever. Now, it felt like a chapter I'd burned. The wind was soft, and the ocean smelled of salt and second chances. I sat there barefoot, feeling the sand slip between my toes. For the first time, I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Tired, but lighter. Suddenly, a voice behind me said, "Didn't expect to see the viral bride here?" I turned. It was Julian, my ex's old college friend, and honestly, the last person I thought I'd run into. He looked awkward, but kind. I just wanted to say, "That was brutal, but kind of legendary," he said with a half smile. I laughed. Legendary wasn't the goal, just honest. He sat beside me, silent for a while. Then he said, "You know, sometimes burning bridges lights the way forward." I looked at him, really looked, and realized something. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking backward. We talked for hours about life, choices, pain, and somewhere between the laughter and the crashing waves, I realized something deeper. Revenge hadn't healed me. Truth did. Julian eventually walked me to my car. Before leaving, he said, "You turned pain into power, Lyra. Not everyone can do that." That night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not about Ethan, not about betrayal, but about rebirth. A blog titled The Wedding Trap: How I Freed Myself by Exposing the Lie. Within days, thousands read it. And instead of shame, I felt purpose. This wasn't just my ending. It was the start of something new. It's been 6 months since the wedding that never was. Sometimes it still feels surreal. The applause, the headlines, the chaos. But most days, it just feels like peace. Quiet, honest peace. I've moved into a small apartment overlooking Biscayne Bay. It's nothing like the penthouse Ethan and I once shared, and that's exactly why I love it. It's mine. Every inch, every plant, every photo on the wall, mine. The blog I started that night turned into something unexpected. Readers began writing to me. Women, men, even teenagers, sharing their own betrayals, heartbreaks, and recoveries. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It became a community. A place where pain didn't define us, where we learned to turn it into power. I started a podcast, Truth Over Perfect, and to my surprise, it exploded. Not because of scandal, but because people connected with raw honesty. I didn't realize how many were secretly trapped in their own versions of the wedding trap. Sometimes people still ask, "Do you regret what you did that day?" My answer is always the same. No, because that day didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It showed me who I was when everything fell apart, and who I could become after. A few weeks ago, I met Julian again. We grabbed coffee, laughed about life, even joked about Ethan probably hiding under a rock somewhere. But there was something different this time. Something softer. We didn't need to fill the silence. It felt safe. He looked at me and said, "You seem happy, Lyra." And for once, I didn't have to fake a smile. "I am," I said. Finally. As I drove home that evening, Miami was glowing in gold, sunlight bouncing off the water, sky painted in pink. I rolled down the window, feeling the wind against my face. No more tears, no more pretending. Just me, free, whole, alive. I parked, walked up to my apartment, and stopped at the door. There was a small envelope taped to it. Inside was a handwritten note. From Sabrina. It said, "Lyra, I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to thank you. What you did forced me to face myself and leave a life built on lies. You destroyed my image, but you saved my soul. S." I stood there for a long moment, silent. Then I smiled, not out of pride, but peace. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about ruining someone else's life. It's about rebuilding your own. I placed the note on my desk beside a framed photo of the beach, the one from that day I met Julian again. Then I whispered to myself, "Goodbye, old me." And just like that, I closed the final chapter of The Wedding Trap.